We're going to go ahead and start. So if you would find a seat, if you're getting food, go ahead and finish, and you can come in. If I have not met you yet, tonight or previously, my name is Mark Hassan. My wife Rita, who is over here at the tech table, and I are kind of immediate past presidents of CISV. And on behalf of the current board, and all, we are so glad you are here tonight. It has done my heart good to louder, huh? Louder. How about this? Better? Better? Okay. It's done my heart good tonight to see everyone talking and enjoying each other's company, getting reacquainted. For some of you, after several years, we really planned this evening as a chance to do just that, to get the CISV Knoxville family kind of back together and have a chance to get reacquainted, find out things that are going on currently in the chapter, say thank you for your support and encouragement over the years and for your hard work in past years. We want to take just a minute to find out who all is here, right? Lots of standing and sitting here, right? If you get tired of standing up, you can raise your hand, but if you're not tired, I'm going to ask you to stand, all right? Hey, we want to start off with people who had traveled through CISV. People who traveled, this is delegates or leaders or staff. Right? And we're going to do this by decade. I'm so sorry. But appreciate the enthusiasm here from the Prevo women. All right. If you traveled with CISV in the 60s, if we have anyone here who traveled with CISV in the 60s, if you would stand up. Suzanne, I'm counting you on that list, right? So if you would stand, yeah, if you would stand up for us, right? They want me to move. I think we turn it. Okay. All right. Now, if you traveled with CISV in the 70s, would you please stand? How about the 80s? And the 90s? That first decade of the 21st century, the 2000s? I've seen Lucy stand a lot in here. And how about in the 2010 to 2017? Beautiful. Hey, if you're a CISV parent, so you had a child travel with us, would you please stand? And I didn't really think about this beforehand, but I found out tonight that we have at least one pair of CISV grandparents. If you're grandparents and have grandkids who have traveled with us, stand or wave. Yeah, the kids are back here. Now, as I said, my wife and I are immediate past presidents of CISV. Our current president is Angelique Hickman. She's not overly fond of microphones, so I can stand here with Angelique. And Angelique, if you would stay standing for just a minute. Okay, thank you very much. If you are a past president of the chapter, if you would stand and let us recognize you. And again, I'm going to ask you to stay standing. Because all of us who have been presidents know how much you value people on the board who help you do all of the work that happens with CISV. So if you have been a board member, committee chair kind of person over the years, past or present, would you please stand? Let us say thank you. All right, you can sit down. And then, last category, some have moved on and done positions at the national or international level out of our chapter. We have some of those folks here tonight. So if you have done things nationally or internationally for CISV, if you would stand up. All right. Thank you so much. Like I said, it's a joy to have all of you here together. We want to start tonight by looking back and remembering the contributions of two very special men. This is one of the few times we've brought the whole CISV Knoxville community together, and we want to remember tonight Ray Schrader and Andy Shockley. Ray Schrader was the founder of our chapter, and Andy Shockley was the first leader that took our first village delegation ever. Ray Schrader was born in 1920. He served in World War II. He eventually ended up at UT on the GI Bill, and he received a PhD in psychology and settled down in Knoxville to teach at UT with his wife Elizabeth. He founded our chapter in 1965, and at some point along the way he wrote up experiences from those first several years. I'm going to read some of his words to you tonight. He says, in 1963, I was on a consulting trip to the Neuropsychiatric Virginia Hospital in Gulfport, Mississippi. Dr. Fred Wright was a member of the staff at the time, and he invited me to the ongoing CIS Village in Gulfport. I said that I would be available between 2 and 4 p.m. Notice, he said he could spare 2 hours for CISV, right? But went on for years and years of service and volunteerism with it. All right. During the afternoon, as I met with children and saw them at play, and as I became acquainted with the CISV Village, my interest mounted. I was invited to stay for dinner and to the Japanese National Night. You know, when he was in World War II, he served in the South Pacific. I think it's really noteworthy that he went to a Japanese National Night that night. He said, I was overwhelmed by the display of love, joy, warmth, and friendliness by the children and adults. I stayed on for the evening meeting of the adults and went back to my motel room at 11 p.m. As I drove back to Knoxville the next day, I was determined that Knoxville would have a CISV chapter. You know, I never had the privilege of meeting Ray, but I think he must have been a man, if he set his mind to, he could accomplish something. Because if you pay attention to what happens and the sequence of events here, we moved very fast. He moved very quickly. All right? So, 63, he goes to this village. That fall, he attended the national meeting, met the Doris Allen, the founder of CISV International. Was really impressed with her. She encouraged him to come back and try to found a group here. And he returned, he gathered an interest group, and at the next National Committee meeting was granted steering committee status for Knoxville. Right? And then received an invitation where Knoxville could send a village chapter the next year. All right, this is when Andy Shockley enters the picture. Andy was from Middle Tennessee. He had served in the Army during the Korean War, where he was twice awarded a Purple Heart. He later attended the University of Tennessee, earning undergraduate and master's degrees in education. And he became an elementary school principal and served at 4 different elementary schools within the Knox City Schools, or maybe Knox County school system. Andy saw information about CISV in the school newsletter and responded. He served on the first selection committee and was also tapped to be the leader of that first delegation. In 1965, that first village delegation traveled to Graz, Austria. Later that fall, Knoxville was granted chapter status at the national meeting and received permission to host a village the following year. Pat, I have no idea how y'all did it. Oh my goodness. You know, we have a village coming up in 2 years, right? We're kind of buckling our belts, we're getting ready for it, you know, we're trying to think how we're going to raise the money to get it all done and how we put all the pieces together, and y'all did it, and so quickly. They managed to get a school, Cedar Bluff Elementary, where they could meet for free. Somehow the school donated them an old bus they used to take the kids around. They got food donated in. They did the whole village for $2,400. And Ray Schrader was the president of the steering committee. He was the treasurer. He was in charge of those sorts of logistics, getting the support together. Andy Shockley was the director of that first village. And they pulled it off. I think they must have had wonderfully complementary gifts to do what they did. Ray went on to become national president. He was the USA delegate to international meetings several times, and eventually he became international vice president of CISV. He directed one of the first seminar camps. He served for 7 years as chair of the International Research Committee. Andy Shockley led at least 5 different delegations for us. including the first USA CISV delegation to go behind the Iron Curtain to a communist country. CISV had worked for some years to get an invitation to go into a communist country, and when that invitation came, it came to Knoxville, and the national level called down and said, this is really important, and we need Ray Schrader or Andy Shockley to lead this delegation. It was a year where Ray was already committed to be lead the seminar camp, and so there was really no choice, and Andy stepped up and said, okay, and so they went. Andy and his wife Patricia both served as delegates to the National Council several times, and Andy served as an international delegate to the Council at least 3 times. Okay, so this is a rather long story I'm about to tell. A little convoluted, but it serves to illustrate the sorts of relationships, friendships, and connections that happen within the CISV world. Right? So I want to tell it. Suzanne Schrader, who's here tonight, right? Her parents were looking for an international experience for her, and she was older than village age. And so they went to Andy and said, oh, do you think you could find a family where she could go and spend some time? Right? Andy said, oh, you know, my roommate at this village I did in Austria, good friends with him, let me call him up. Well, he had married a woman from France who he met through CISV, and she said, oh, I've got friends. Yeah, this can work out. So Knoxville friend, to German friend, to French wife, to French friends, they set up an exchange so that Suzanne flew over to France and stayed with his family one summer. The next summer, that girl flew here to Knoxville and stayed with her. The experience was so good that Ray and Andy proposed it to National, that they created as a CISV program. Missy, as an adult, brought her kids back to travel with CISV, served on our board for 11 years. If we can get the sound to work out, I think it's going to. We're going to see a video from her daughter in just a minute, because her daughter was a leader and took a group of our...
CISV Smoky Mountain chapter.
There it is.
My name is Macy Parker, and I just got back from leading a village to Sao Paulo, Brazil, with 4 kids from our chapter. I wish I could be there tonight, but I'm celebrating with you all in spirit in my CISV pajama pants, so there's a part of me with you. Just wanted to introduce the video you're about to watch. Our village this summer was special because it was sponsored by Momondo, which is a travel search engine, and their mantra is, let's open our world. So they've done one ad campaign before, which was called the DNA Journey, and they flew a flight crew from Copenhagen to our village this summer to film our day-to-day life for about 10 days, and that is for their second ad campaign, which is called Dear Mom and Dad. So without spoiling too much, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you can hear the voices of our chapter kids, but also kids from all over. Thanks.
Dear Mom and Dad,
to my dear family, dear parents,
before I left, I was terrified of being away from home for a full month.
At the beginning, I felt a bit insecure and nervous about not being able to make friends.
It has been scary that people are so much more different than I'm used to. It was just so wild to actually be here and actually meet them for the first time.
But after getting to know them and their thoughts, I see that we are more alike than I could never imagine.
Here we all get along. The world has changed a lot, and by the time I'm your age, hopefully it's changed even more, but for the better.
You meet people from a lot of different places, and you realize that you can become friends with anyone.
Even when we feel we are so different, we really are not.
It does not matter how we are outside. At the end, we are all humans, and respect is the key. I really think that there's hope for the future. Learning things from other places, I think that is my new favorite hobby.
Macy said it, but in case you missed it, right, we had a village delegation that was here, and some of the voices you were hearing tonight were our kids that were at that village, and they have parents here in the room tonight. And two of those parents are going to speak to us later in the second half of the program. We didn't know their kids were on this video when we asked them to speak. We got the video like 3 days ago. But I think it does a wonderful job of talking about village and the way village changes kids. You know, I think we throw around the word unique, and sometimes we mean it to say something like great, or special, or wonderful. But I think CISV really is a unique program. I don't know of anything else that does what it does in terms of bringing people from multiple countries together, kids, for this kind of an experience. Well, as we started tonight, we wanted to do something in memory of Ray Schrader and Andy Shocklin. And so I'm announcing tonight that we are going to place memorial benches in honor of each of them. The chapter has been collecting bottle caps over the course of the last year and a half or so, plastic bottle caps, which can be recycled. You'll hear more about this project in the second half, but we used it and worked with the kids at Pond Gap Elementary to collect bottle caps and put picnic tables at Pond Gap so they could have outside space that they could use. We had some of those left over, and so those bottle caps are becoming benches that we're going to place in memory of Ray Schrader and Andy Shocklin. In addition to the benches, we've also decided to make yearly financial aid awards of $1,000 in memory of Ray and Elizabeth Schrader, and in memory and honor of Andy and Patricia Shocklin. This will be a yearly awards. Right. So to Patricia, to Jeff, to Suzanne, I hope as you look around the room tonight, I hope as you hear the stories of CISV and how it's changed people's lives, I hope as you think about the different generations represented in this room, that your hearts will just overflow, right? With pride and joy at the number of lives touched by Ray and Andy's work and sacrifice, and y'all's sacrifice, right? CSV takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy, and yet it touches so many lives here. Right? Thank you. All right. So I had the joy of talking with Suzanne and Patricia and hearing some of their stories and experiences. And Patricia told me one about this beer stein that she's going to come and talk to us about.
One of the things that I remember about CISV locally was we were always very careful to be very open with our invitations to apply through the selection process for villages, etc. in CISV, except once that I recall, and that was the first of the villages for Pioneer Youth Group who invited the USA through CISV USA. And Ray Schrader received a call from Bill Matthews in England, then International Director, and he said, "Ray, we've got it. I've worked for years for this, and we've got it. We're going behind the Iron Curtain with the Pioneer Youth Group. Now, nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. Do you understand? Nothing can go wrong." And Ray said, "Okay." And he said, And we're going to guarantee that because either you or Andy Shockley are going to take this delegation to Romania. This was 1974. And so Ray was leading a seminar village, as Mark mentioned, and Andy was selected. Andy said that's the easiest selection he ever went through. When they returned, Andy said, this is a moment. He called it a shining moment in the history of the Knoxville chapter. Because we were up, we were the chapter chosen to send what he considered to be the most important delegation he ever led, and he led 5. When they returned, the kids presented him. Andy was a beer stein collector, still is. Anybody want to see beer steins? Come to my house. I'll give you a good deal. This beer stein says, Romania, CISV, 1974, and they're the names of the 5 youngsters, ages 13, 14, and 15, who went to Romania. Now this doesn't sound like a CISV delegation, does it? Well, Young Pioneers said, we want 3 boys, 2 girls, ages 13, 14, 15. Ray said, that's not a CISV delegation. Andy said, oh, that's not a CISV delegation. Call Bill, Bill said, take them what they want. So the names of those 5 youngsters are on this. Andy would want this to be where it's appreciated and it belongs to you. So, Mark, you get it to whomever, your historian, your archivist.
This black photo album I'm holding is a photo album from that village. It's sitting over here at the table. We have some historical things around some of your tables around the room. You may want to drop by and look at this later. Just, I'm going to ask you to put this back on the table for me. All right. Well, I've been at this microphone long enough for now. I'm going to turn it over. We have a couple folks who are going to speak here in the first half of the program for us tonight. One of those is Randy Boyd. Most of us know Randy Boyd. He's fairly famous in local circles, right? He's a businessman, entrepreneur. What else did your website call you? Philanthropist, gubernatorial candidate these days. We do know you as a very successful local businessman and entrepreneur. You and Ginny are known for being very generous in your support of local organizations, and we are grateful for that. In recent years, he's done things in government. Like I said, he is a gubernatorial candidate for us right now. Part of that, he's been running literally across the state, right? You've seen those run with Randy things, whatever, right? We met Randy this summer and talked to him about this event. He said, oh, I'd love to come and, I'll try to put it on my calendar. He said, although I don't really own my calendar these days, I have to go through the schedule in person. He said, but it's a Sunday night, I will do my best to be there. And we were very grateful. And then a couple weeks later, this Run with Randy thing came out. And Randy, I did the math, and it didn't work out. You weren't going to make the, 537. 37.3. Yeah, 0.3. That's right. You weren't going to make it before our event. And I thought, oh, so this just isn't going to happen, right? But he's here tonight, although he hasn't finished running yet. In fact, you have to be in West Tennessee tomorrow morning early to run 10 miles. So he made a real commitment to be here for us tonight. We're very grateful for that. Knoxville, East Tennessee knows you as this business guy, a philanthropist, gubernatorial candidate. We know you as a CISV, right? Part of the CISV family. And it's in that part of you and in that aspect of you that we've actually come to speak to us tonight. So please come and share.
So thanks, Mark, and so that introduction provides additional 2 comments that I feel like I should make. So first off, I am still running across the state. So at 9 o'clock, I'm flying out to Memphis. I've got 34 miles left to go of a 537.3 journey. Julie ran with me through Knoxville about 6 miles. Thank you for that. So pretty excited about actually being finished, but it's been a really, really great journey. So this worked out. Also, when you made those comments, it reminded me that I'm also failing at what I was going to challenge this room to do, and that was doing a better job of promoting CSV. So I mentioned my bio, and if I were to probably highlight the most important things in my life, especially those formative years, CISV should be on there. And yet in the bio, there's not a single point where I mention that I was a villager in CISV. So I'm failing this organization. I'm going to change it tomorrow. We're going to add that to there. I was thinking about being here tonight, meeting so many people. I was really disappointed, though, I'll say, because when we stood up for the 1970 crowd, I was kind of hoping that Daniel or Becca or Cam would be here. But it's kind of like showing up for your family or your class reunion, and your favorite friends of the class didn't show up. But I can Google them or Facebook them, so I'll find them. But I was thinking about this group and all of us being here tonight, and it's kind of like a secret society. And what I mean by that, so when we go back out into the world tomorrow and you say, last night you were at a CISV event, how many of you will have people know what you're talking about? Anybody would raise your hand if you think that you can talk to people tomorrow and they'll know. You guys are doing a good job. The rest of us, not so much. This is such a profound, dramatic, great organization, and yet so few people know of it. And yet when I think about how it could possibly have an effect on the world and make it a better place, I can't think of a better way than having imagine this. Imagine an entire world where every single kid in the country, in the world, actually experienced CISV. Do you think it would be different? Think it would be better? I think so. So I'd like to suggest that maybe as a calling for all of us, going forward, we just do a better job of being promoters of this organization. So what I thought I would do, just give you a quick personal bio experience with CISV myself, then maybe a couple of call-outs, because we are here for a mission. So I'll maybe mention it. I'm a sales guy. I made a living selling an invisible fence. So there's going to be a sales call here. So for me, CISV started when I was 11 years old. I got to go to Village in 1971 to Gotemba, Japan. I felt special because there were 44 other boys all competing for 2 slots, and I got picked. And that's another thing, isn't it? Because back in the day, it was a bigger deal. I think now we're having a hard time getting kids in. So another thing that we need to work on. But 44 boys all competing, and I got picked. I'm not sure why, I still have no idea. But we managed to get picked, and so you felt special. So that was great. I remember it was my first trip out of the country. So you're 11 years old, we went to Gotemba, Japan. I remember landing and getting off the plane and looking at the grass and thinking, their grass just looks like our grass. I mean, who knew? But it was amazing the observations you had. But the most important thing, of course, was just the experience of all those other kids from all the other countries. 11 other countries, I guess it's still the same. 11 countries, 4 kids from each country. And as we know, for those that have been to Village, it's not a travel trip. You're not going around going to museums and sites. You spend 4 weeks really getting to know the kids. And while you get to appreciate our differences, you also understood that we're the same. And you went away with a much deeper appreciation for how we're connected in the world. And it was such a profound experience. I remember my mom still says that it changed my life. She said there was the before CISV and the after CISV experience. And then somebody asked me earlier today, well, how were you different? And I can't really tell you. Mom could tell you, but I knew I grew up a lot in that experience. So it was an incredible experience. It made me aware of the world. At one point, I wanted to be the first Secretary of State that, the longest serving Secretary of State, that's kind of passed. But I did manage to create an international company. Today we have offices in 6 countries around the world. I think a big part of that was this motivation just to be in other places and have relationships with other countries. So I attribute that back to CISV. And then later on, when my children were able to go, it was an opportunity I want to make sure they got to experience. So my son Thomas, who's in the room, I got to go to Village when he was 11 years old and went to Sweden. So we have that. And then my second son, Harrison, got to go to an interchange. Got to go with Lydia and her daughter about that's a long time ago now, 12 years ago, to Finland. And so that was a great experience for them. And then, so I've I guess CISV has been a big part of our family for multiple generations. The great news is, this is something that a few people that I've met in the room that I know for a while, that mate Dawn and some of others that might not know this, but Thomas and Lindsay are now going to have a little granddaughter of ours in April, and so 11 years from now, hopefully we'll be the 3rd generation of CISVers here in Knoxville. So to sum up, CISV has been a part of our life for generations. It makes such an impact on everybody that it touches. I think we have an opportunity, a responsibility to make this a bigger, broader, more sustainable organization in our community. And I think there's some opportunities here tonight to help support and invest. I think that at least on a minimum, we can go out and start being advocates and telling all of our friends and neighbors at a much higher level than we have in the past. I'll make that commitment tonight if you will. I think financially there's also the opportunity to step up and make sure that this organization is sustainable in so many ways. See some of my friends from Pond Gap Elementary that I think they're going to be here making some comments later on. Pond Gap Elementary School is something that Jenny and I have been invested in and supporting for maybe 8 years now, I think. You need to add up the years. CISV is a great organization, but not everybody gets to participate. There are a lot of young people that are in some of our inner city schools, maybe in some of our rural communities, that don't have the money to go. And I don't think the things that we've benefited from CISV should be just something for the rich, something for the affluent. It should be something for everybody. So there's also an opportunity for all of us to step up and provide scholarships so that some of our kids at Pond Gap and some of the schools can also have the same opportunity. So again, it's great being with you, great opportunity to have fellowship with people who have had a lot of similar experiences. Let's make it a passion and advocacy to make sure that other people all across our community also have the same opportunity. Thank you so much.
One of the things we wanted to do was make sure we heard from different generations of folks, right? One of the privileges of being in a chapter like ours is that we've been here for 52 years, right? So we've got Randy from the 70s. I'm going to invite Patrick. Where's Patrick? Where'd you go? Oh, there you come. Patrick grew up in Chattanooga. We're going to forgive him for that. But he came to CISV there. He came to UT to go to law school. Lauren Herbstritt and others. We have a couple of UT law profs in the audience tonight. Helped bring him on board with us. He was our JV advisor. And then one of the things that we did for our 50th anniversary was we sponsored a village in Peru. And it was the first time that chapter had ever held a village. So we reached out to try to help make that possible for them. Eileen Weber, who's hiding back here behind Missy Parker, yes, was our point person for that and did a beautiful job of interfacing with them and helping them to understand how to budget and how to create the categories and keep everything in line. Patrick was our staff person who went down and actually staffed who was there at that village. We invited him to come speak tonight.
Like Mark said, my name is Patrick and I'm from Chattanooga, so don't hold that against me. So I did start out with CISV in the Chattanooga chapter. I started off with interchange. I actually was so bummed that I never went to Village. That's something that I never got to participate in. I got involved right when I was 12, and one of my best friends was like, "Oh, I just came back from Village, this was awesome." And you know that it's really hard to describe exactly what you go through for those like 28 days, that you can't really talk to people about it. So I had no idea what he was talking about. And so I decided to do interchange with him, and then here I am, some 15, 16 years later, still involved in the organization in some capacity. And so I went to a magnet school down in Chattanooga, and I was involved in music. And so I always thought I wanted to be a music or art major going to college. And then when I was 16, I went to Sweden to be a JC. And that's a junior counselor, if you're not familiar with that. And so you work as an in-between between the leaders and the kids. And I was so, oh my gosh, it's still one of the most amazing experiences in my heart to this day, because after that I came out wanting to be a lawyer. So you can see how it completely changed my entire perception of what I wanted to do and who I was as a person. So I wanted to be an art major and music major, which is, I love the arts, and that's great. But then, you know, you're seeing these 11-year-olds and seeing how much love they have for each other and for the world. And there's this 11-year-old kid from Brazil, and you know, language barriers, they might not understand profanity, and that could be offensive to some people. And this Brazilian kid, and part of my language, but he was like, oh man, the world's a shitty place. He's 11, and that broke my heart. And he was, man, I can't wait to grow up and make a difference. And so from then on, I was like, what am I doing with my life? So I came back, decided to go to law school. Not at that moment because I was 16, but I went to undergrad at MTSU, international relations major, and then just finished up here in Knoxville a little over a year ago, and now I'm down in Chattanooga practicing law, and I'm doing immigration work. And so it all comes full circle, and I love it. But that's actually not why I'm here to talk. I'm actually to talk about the Peru Village. Somehow I convinced the law school, my last semester of law school, to miss like 3 weeks of class. I still don't know how I got away with that, but I went, and I missed a lot of class, and all the professors worked with me, but all the professors were very curious about what I was going to do. And you know, Village, CISV is hard to talk about, and so trying to just figure this out. So I worked on like this elevators pitch, and it was like, oh, you know, you get to meet people, build bridges, understanding, friendship, all that stuff, and they're like, all right, let's do it, let's go. And so I went down there for about 6 weeks. I got to go to Machu Picchu and all that stuff, which is great, but going down there with these kids in Peru, that experience is one of the most trying moments of my life. Because I went down there and, you know, my Spanish at that time was very limited. And so I'm on the staff with 5 other Peruvians. They all speak Spanish, and so they spoke Spanish to each other, but also it was learning about myself. I can get wound up a little tight every now and then. I think some of you guys might have similar traits. And you know, Peruvians don't really have that in their blood. It's very just go with the flow. If you're 30 minutes late to something, you're actually early. And that drove me insane. But you know, I learned so much about myself during that experience. So if any of you have not traveled with CISV, or you think you're too old or anything like that, you can always learn new tricks. And so I learned a lot about myself at that experience, and you know, it was interesting to see how people deal with conflict at different moments. We had one little like drizzle of rain. Peru never gets rain. And then it was El Nino. El Nino was happening at this time. So a little bit of rain, the roof caved in because they just were not prepared for rain at any moment. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not good. I don't know what to do. I'm in Peru and I don't speak Spanish and at least know how to talk to people because the roof just caved in. But it was like, oh, it'll be all right. And that blew my mind. And so I learned so much on just how people handle conflicts, but also that everyone brings something different to the table. And so I brought a lot of like my own personal like, organization skills. I did a lot of the spreadsheets, things like that, because I enjoy doing that stuff. But all this conflict happened behind the scenes, and the kids never learned any of it. And that's always one thing that I hold close to my heart is we always do it for the kids. And so anything that we do here tonight, it's still for the kids. And so one of my biggest qualms with the organization is that we lack economic diversity within the organization. And so I know I'm still a young professional, and I don't have much money to my name, but I can still make a small gift as well, because any amount can help. And I think that's what matters, because when you think about it, it's for the kids. And so regardless of what you can do, whether it's an hour here, $5 here, I encourage you to remember that it's for the kids. And you may, and if you don't like lawyers, please don't hold this against me, you may change someone's kid's perspective to want to go to law school and make a difference to someone else, just like my perspective was completely changed. So thank you.
are hoping to raise some money tonight. But you know, we really want to do kind of a soft sell instead of a hard sell tonight. We thought for the first time to get everybody back together, we wanted to enjoy being together, and we really wanted to have a chance, especially for folks who served on the board in past years, to say thank you. There's a lot of work to keep this organization going, and many of you labored long and hard for many years, and those of us currently here are the beneficiaries of all that hard work. And so we really wanted to say thank you, and I just want to kind of end the first half tonight there, right? So we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk after the break a little bit more about the current things that are going on, what's happening in the chapter right now. If you do want to make a gift to us tonight, we've got papers on the table over here. You can grab one of those. Obviously, there's silent auction stuff out here, and there's lots of bidding that can happen. We are so far behind the schedule I thought we were going to be on. It is 20 till 8 right now. I want to reconvene us at 5 after 8. Yes?
Before we go, on the bid sheet, they say 7:45, but of course we won't close until we sit back down at 8.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, Beth Ann. Yeah, so bidding will end when I reconvene things, right? In 25 minutes, 8:05, right? Food back there, silent auction things here.
Just the food. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and remember to eat the fruit on the center pieces, right? Eat up the center pieces. And of course, the bars here, you can get your tickets over there for more alcohol. Thank you very much. We'll see you back shortly. Right? It is this well-kept secret, right? And we wanted to be active in the local community. And so that became our motto. It's been really kind of our guiding principle for the last 2 or 3 years. We started going more and more out into the festivals. We've been on Farmers Market. We've been at the Asian Festival. We've been at the Oak Ridge Children's Festival, the Lavender Festival, the Rossini Festival. Yeah. Also, as part of that, we've been looking at ways we can reach out and partner with the local community. When I was talking to Pat about the early days of CISV, one of the things she told me was that the second village we ever sent kids to was that the chapter took on the responsibility of trying to raise the money so that those families would have no cost of those kids going. Right? And as a chapter, we've always had a commitment, I think, to trying to do what we can to help make the opportunity possible to as many people in as broad a spectrum of folks as we can. There's always challenges with that. It's the CSV is not what? It is not inexpensive to send delegations overseas for 4 weeks. Right? It takes finances on the chapter, it takes finances on the part of the families. And yet, we have done what we can to raise those monies and make it possible. I would want to tell you that we've learned through kind of the national president's call that we get to go through, that that is not the case with every chapter. In fact, we are really fairly unusual that way. If you talk to chapters about what they do in terms of financial aid or helping families, most of them say, our families pay. We set the rates and they pay. And if they can't afford to pay, then they just don't have those opportunities. And yet we have tried to make that as a part of our mission to raise the funds and make that possible. So, as part of that, we had some money in an endowment up in Cincinnati. We recently moved that down to the East Tennessee Foundation. We've been raising money over the last few years. We have built that endowment to about $50,000 right now with the East Tennessee Foundation. That will generate enough funds that every other year right now, we should be able to afford sort of a full scholarship for a student. If we use the term scholarship, we're talking about something that's going to pay almost all the costs. If we talk about financial aid, we're talking about partial costs for families. And we've always been offering partial financial aid for folks for some time now. But looking at those scholarships coming on board and looking at where we might partner with organizations to help us find good families that would make good participants and part of CISV, we have been looking at Pond Gap and as a community school, and then more recently at the Joy of Music School. And we have a person from the Joy Music School who's going to come and play for us tonight. And right now I'm going to introduce Frank Griffeo, who's the executive director, who's going to come talk to us for a minute.
Thank you, everyone. Music is a universal language. You hear that all the time, but it's a fact. It makes everything better. The Joy of Music School, we like to think of it as an organization that also makes everything better. We are a nonprofit organization that provides free music lessons and instruments for financially disadvantaged, at-risk children and teens. We exist to combat what's happening in the public schools. You know, it used to be you were handed an instrument and You're in the orchestra. Well, here's a violin, you're in the orchestra. Here's a trumpet, you're in the band. Some of you may remember those days. It happened here in Knoxville. Well, that's not happening anymore. The budgets for public school music are being slashed, and I'm tracking it, and unfortunately the graph just goes down and down and down every year. But it's why we exist. The organization was founded by James Dick. You might know that name. He was a philanthropist and leader in the community. Started in 1998. Prior to my work as executive director at the Joy of Music School, I was the general director and conductor of Knoxville Opera. And as a conductor, I've taken music around the world and played and performed in all sorts of places, mostly operas, but also doing ballet and symphony performances, and been exposed to cultures and have all kinds of great cultural stories to tell, like the rest of you who've traveled. But the thing that really gives me hope is that the language we're performing in basically is one we all understand and appreciate, and that's music. Your organization, CISV, and I hope someday to call it our organization because of a burgeoning partnership we have, is all about opportunity. And the Joy of Music School does the same thing. But we all also understand that when provided an opportunity, the best result is you enabling a child to change their own life. And our Chattanooga attorney, I'm sorry I forgot your name, but he was speaking about that happening in him. You can certainly go to a foreign country and learn a lot of facts and learn a lot of great things about that place and those people, but if it doesn't do anything inside of you, then that has failed. And the same thing happens with music. A child is learning music, they choose to practice, they choose to get their work done, they choose to set an objective, like a performance, like a recital, like an ensemble, working together with their colleagues, being depended upon and depending upon others. Coexisting and relying on others and having them rely on you is a theme that's common in both of our organizations. And I'm proud that we're beginning a relationship. And I want to thank Ana Gonsalves for reaching out to me and really getting this started. Ana, thank you very much. And Mark, thank you for following up. And I look forward to more meetings and more discussions about making CISV an opportunity for the kids at the school and for the families at the school. So now it's time to introduce our young performer, Alex. Alex has been studying violin at the Joy of Music School for 7 years. He has overcome a lot. To put it briefly, he's overcome a lot, and his family has too. And Alex is now 17 years old, and you can come sit up over here if you like. I think that would be perfectly fine. When he started, he sounded squeaky just like your kids sounded squeaky on their violins. And one of the things that set Alex apart from the other students at the school was his determination and his hard work. Alex practices. Alex works on the details. Alex learns about the music. He learns about the pieces he's playing, and that helps him become a better communicator. And then we're back to that universal language of music. Alex is going to play a piece for you from an opera, actually. The opera is called Thais. It's by a French composer named Massenet. This is called The Meditation from Thais. Please welcome Alex Chambers.
know, I'm a music prof out of Carson Newman. I can talk about scholarship auditions if you want to stick around. And there are a pair of glasses up here. These belong not to you, maybe to Frank. Around 2 years ago, my wife, who's a lovely woman, had this kind of crazy idea that CISV should start collecting bottle caps, and that we could use those bottle caps and recycle them to turn into something, and that would be a good thing for us to do. About the same time, the JV were starting to volunteer in the Pond Gap Community Garden, and as we were spending some time there, we realized they had these educational spaces, but they didn't have much in the way of benches, and at the time they had no offense meant, they had a really sad kind of playground. Since then, the playground has really improved, right? But still, there seemed to be a lack of outdoor seating space. And so we started talking with Pond Gap saying, hey, could we possibly do this project and maybe get benches for you guys? And would your classes be interested in participating with us and helping to collect? And gradually over time, week after week, month after month, it just grew. Right? People got their friends, you know, physical therapists we know started collecting, and she got a sorority at UT collecting. Many of you in this room started collecting. And all the elementary school classes at Pond Gap started collecting for us. They collected, gosh, 180 pounds in 3 weeks, I think they did. Julie Jones eventually put it on Nextdoor, right, and found that she had a neighbor who worked in the bottle cap making industry, and they had a big client who was changing their bottle cap design, and they had all these leftover bottle caps, and they were like, well, we could donate those to your project, you know. We ended up with 4,500 pounds of plastic bottle caps. 4,500 pounds covers 7 40 by 44-inch pallets, 7 feet tall, plus about half of my garage in my basement, okay? That's, in case you were just wondering how many that is, that's a lot of bottle caps. We were able to use those and send them off to be recycled and get some picnic tables for Pond Gap. And Karen Holst, who's the coordinator of their after-school program, she's a UT employee and works with their, is going to come and talk to us now a bit about that. Where's Karen? There she is.
Good evening. Oh, it's loud. I wrote out what I was going to say so I wouldn't talk on and on and on, so forgive me for reading for a minute, and then I'm going to talk off the cuff as well. I'm the coordinator for University Assisted Community Schools at Pond Gap Elementary, and those are our kids right there. You're looking at them, and this is a piece, at least, of an incredible video that was taken by someone sitting in this room that documented the day we received the picnic tables. And that says it all right there. You know, you can see the kids in their excitement coming to sit on those picnic tables, which represents nearly, 5,000 pounds of bottle caps collected. Part of that anyway. It was a big endeavor. University Assisted Community Schools is a program that meets the non-curricular needs of children and families in urban high poverty areas. And the mission of our program is to keep kids in school, have them graduate and become employed and pursue a post-high school 2 or 4 year institution of higher learning. Our mission is embedded in the evidence that sustained improvement in the lives of children, their education outcomes, and future successes rests on attending to the health and well-being of the whole child. And I think that that mission is an important thing to share with all of you tonight. Because when you are in neighborhoods that experience high levels of poverty, you start to see a domino effect that erects a wall to success for those kids academically. And there is so much more to try to equaling and trying to level the playing field that goes beyond what can happen in a classroom. And what is necessary is to attend to the health and well-being of the whole child, and by the whole child, that means their families and the community at large. So the whole notion behind a community school is if you lift the whole community, you will thereby lift the child. The largest program that we run is something called our full service program. That's what you're looking at right now. We serve 100 kids at the end of the regular school day, 5 days a week, from the end of the day until up to 7 p.m. at night. Kids get snack, they get dinner, they get academic enrichment programming, arts enrichment programming, and lots of clubs by virtue of the great, incredible students and professors at the University in Tennessee who come out and expose our students to things they would absolutely never otherwise have the opportunity to experience. And this program is completely free of charge to our families. I want to do a big shout out to the Joy of Music, because one of the most incredible music educators I have ever known in my life, she is a national treasure in my mind. She works for us teaching music, and her son went to the Joy of Music and is a Juilliard graduate and now lives in New York and is pursuing a career in jazz piano, and he is outrageously talented, and that would not have happened in this boy's life, in this young man's life, had it not been for the Joy of Music. They're an amazing place. So yes, they're amazing. So at any rate, it's through the full service program that I became connected to Rita and Children's International Village. I do not have any experience with my own kids with CISV. I had friends who were lucky enough to have their children get to be part of Village, but I had no real experience, and the closest thing, the big connection was meeting Rita. Rita is a warrior, if you know her. I absolutely love this woman, so I am going to just say this for her. She is amazing. Thank you. And we need warriors at Pond Gap, and we got one when we met Rita. So she started the Bottle Cap Project at Pond Gap. And what it meant was that the kids participated in the collecting of, at this time it was leftover Easter eggs because it was in the spring, and bottle caps. And then they got to see the result of being the recipients of their own involvement in their own service project, which was huge. I cannot possibly tell you. So it was so much more than just this, the kids sitting on these picnic tables. And that in and of itself was a huge deal, because one thing a lot of people don't realize is that playgrounds are not funded by Knox County schools. Playgrounds are funded by fundraisers from families who give money so their kids can have nice playgrounds. So that's why playgrounds look dramatically different when you go to a school in a more affluent neighborhood versus a school in a very impoverished neighborhood. So we had a playground that looked maybe not even better than a penitentiary setting, outdoor setting. It was bad. And our principal held a big fundraiser to try to get us a new playground, and it was amazing. But things like these picnic tables are just a big deal. We don't have anything like that at Pond Gap. And the day these picnic tables arrived, and it was before this moment where this video was taken, I got to work and I got teary because they were filled with kids. Every single table was filled with kids, and the teachers had made it an incentive for their kids to come out and be able to eat lunch in the shade on those picnic tables. Before that, the kids ate lunch on the concrete in walkway right as you enter the school. That was the reward, to sit outside on the concrete, on the walkway as people are trying to get into the school, and that's where they ate lunch before. And now this is where they eat lunch as reward. So it was a big deal. And we have a club called Kindness Patrol, and we are starting to create a partnership where the CISV students can come in and do some anti-bullying curriculum with our kids that are in Kindness Patrol. And as I was reading up on CISV tonight, I was particularly struck by the values of CISV, which are friendship, inclusiveness, enthusiasm, engagement, and cooperation. And those values and the work that your students can do with schools like ours when they come back from Village has power that I cannot possibly express enough, matter to our children in terms of their future success. Because while on the one hand, we're lucky to have seen test scores rise 2 percentage points, yay, on AYP from 2 years ago at Pond Gap, and we're really happy about that. On the other hand, what we know is that research is revealing that relying on test scores alone to predict future success is a mistake. And that a lot of our kids, especially our kids who live in poverty, and our kids very much like the kids we serve, for them especially, it is not the sole predictor of success, or even as good of a predictor of success for long-term success as other predictors. Things like external behavior, social empathy, effective regulation of emotions. And evidence is increasing that these kinds of social skills, communication skills, higher order thinking skills, interpersonal skills, self-control, and a positive self-concept increases kids' likelihood of actually getting to college, staying in college, graduating from college, and getting a job and being successful in the long term. So these are all things that kids learn when they have the opportunity to go to Village and to be out of their regular comfort zone. And those lessons that your students have learned from these experiences and their ability to bring it back to our kids and help them grow and learn will take our kids so far into the future, and we are really, really grateful for these picnic tables, but even more importantly, for our opportunity to collaborate with all of you and your students who have had these incredible experiences. So I just want to say thank you so much, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you.
We appreciate you and the opportunities our kids will have there at Pond Gap, and you've been willing to open that up to us and to them. Can we show that other video? All right. So So this is the video. These are our kids, right? And this guy, this is Matthew Brunn, and his mom is Beth Ann, and she's going to come talk to us in just a minute. And the other guy on this video is Benji, right? Whose mom Joy is going to come speak to us in a minute as well. So enjoy this. This is at this village in Brazil this past summer, and this is sort of a debrief from an activity they did, right? As they're kind of talking about what they lived through and what they experienced. You know, CISV villages are filled with experiential learning, and they're kind of debriefing and talking about their experience here.
And you might want to add that this is being launched in the schools.
Oh yeah. And Mamundo is using this as a way to launch a program in schools that has CISV type activities in it. In fact, we're thinking we may be able to use some of these activities at Pond Gap with the kids there. But anyway, this is part of a national or international campaign that they're starting, and so our kids are just all over the internet these days.
Agreeing with me and like asking me what to do, because they kept mentioning how I had lots of friends and was always really involved in everything.
Being perceived as shy kind of felt odd. I didn't really like it that much.
I think that it did make me feel a little bit better to be labeled as somebody nice.
This activity made me think more about labeling people, if it was good or bad, or if I should do it, or if I shouldn't.
I think after doing the exercise, it sort of made me see a little bit more about labels and understand them a little bit more, how we really shouldn't judge people automatically.
Yeah, I think that labels are put on people just by their appearance or their culture.
Very nice, man. So we send our kids off to these villages to have these experiences, to meet people from other cultures, to learn that although we are different in many ways, underneath that we're all the same. You know, I heard Randy Boyd say that this summer when we were talking to him. I said, so what'd you get out of Village? He said, that's what I got. When we asked our son Luke a couple years ago, what'd you get out of Village? He said, we're all the same. If you listen to the first video, you'll hear the phrase in there, we realize we're all the same. Right? Wonderful lessons that we learn. I'm going to invite Beth Ann Brunn. She's the dark-haired fella's mom. She's going to come and talk to us for a minute. We met Beth Ann last year about this time as we were going through selection and Matthew was coming through. And they came. She has jumped in. She's busy right now because she took over the silent auction aspect of our evening for tonight. And she's serving on the board as a board member at large this year and has taken on Planning Village for us in 2019. So,
Okay, first off, before we get into my spiel, you guys have done excellent tonight with our silent auction, and we really appreciate it. We just have 3 items that have not been bid on at all. So I just wanted to take a minute and just point them out to you, and then you guys can decide, okay? Okay, yeah, so that one is the Santa Fe Doorways, and it's a photographer named David Underwood. It is priced at $150. If anybody's interested or wants to make an offer on that, we are open to offers. Okay.
Dave Underwood's one of my colleagues out at Carson Newman. He's had 2 works bought by the Smithsonian Institute of Art in Washington, D.C., which is a big deal in the art world.
So it might be a good investment.
This one.
And this one is a photo by a young lady named Julie Raven, okay, there you go. And it is also priced at $150, so make us an offer and we would love for someone to take that home. Then the last thing is a fall centerpiece and Mayo gift card. It's a $20 gift card, and it has a little wheelbarrow with some birdies on it. So again, just make an offer on it, okay? So we can send them home with somebody. All right, so now, I am so not a speaker, people, so bear with me here. Okay, so CISV has absolutely changed our experience, not only for our son Matthew, who you saw, but for our entire family. At this time last year, Matthew had attended his first day of his first fun day, and our family learned a lot about Village. And like many of you at first, I thought it sounded absolutely crazy to send my 11-year-old to another country with 3 other 11-year-olds and a college student. But also, like you, I then learned about CISV's program through the eyes of the students and the parents that trusted in this mission. But now, after knowing Matthew and traveling, you can't really understand until your child comes home how profound this experience is for them. After meeting 48 kids, leaders and JCs from 12 other countries, and the power that this reaction is for a month for these kids is unreal. What an amazing experience. What was the most amazing experience is how Matthew was able to communicate that change to us when he came home. Over time, through the songs that they sang, the activities that they participated, and perhaps most importantly, the deep friendships he made. He was heartbroken to leave his friends from around the world, and Matthew's experience had an impact on us too. Mark and I see the world from interacting with other host families, participating with the STEP program this summer. But all of this would not have been possible without the generosity of you guys. My son would not have been able to attend or travel with CISV without the financial aid program. Even though the investment is worth every penny, it's honestly not an investment that every family could afford. But through the financial aid program of Smoky Mountain Chapter, families who would not otherwise be able to give the gift of CIS Village to their child are able to. Financial aid made all the difference. So I thank you all I thank all of you who have made this life-changing experience for Matthew. I will continue to give back to CISV so that I can do my part in making sure that other children, especially those whose parents cannot financially support this, to have the experience. Thank you again for giving my son the opportunity and for letting him share in the Smoky Mountain chapter. As you can see, I'm not a speaker. I'm just a mom who's very, very impressed with how much my son got from going away with CISV. And I never thought that he would experience the things that he experienced. Okay, with all of that said, and now that everybody knows that financial aid is the only way I was able to send my son this last year, we have a few different ways that you guys could help us send other children. One is by, this one is Fund a Village for the Day, which is $150 per day to send a child, and you can help us by doing that. The other one is by just $6.50 an hour. For a kid to go away from Village. And then, of course, for us who can really do it, it's $1,125 per week to go ahead and send a child to a Village. So if anybody can help with these, even though we've closed the silent auction, I'm going to go ahead and leave these up front, and if you guys want to help by filling these out more, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth Ann. We appreciate you being willing to share with us tonight. Rita and I, we joined as with financial aid in place. We couldn't have done it otherwise. So thank you from us as well for that. And we, grew so much as a family. We saw our kids grow. We made such wonderful friends in the organization, and we found what. It's taken a lot of time, but it's a lot of time spent in a worthwhile endeavor, right? In the name of peace, in the name of understanding, in the name of, diversity and conflict and resolution and sustainable development, all those wonderful teaching points for CISV. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Joy Radice, who's our Vice President of Programs. She's going to come and announce this coming year's programs to us. We're coming down the home stretch.
I get the big reveal. This is the best speaking moment of the night. But before I give you that reveal, I wanted to say that Randy Boyd has been so generous, and our villagers left, or for National Night, they were able to bring, thanks to his generosity, jerseys and genuine baseball caps from the Smokies. And according to our boys, they were like the hottest commodity to trade. As you all know, trading is the biggest thing when you're an 11-year-old at Village. So, he has been giving in so many ways, and we were certainly grateful for that. You've heard so many times, time and time again, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think for CISV, we think it takes a CISV village to make the world a better place. And so these programs are just examples of how that happens, and it happens not only for 11-year-olds, but for kids, as you will see, and not so much kids, who are up to 19-year-olds for some of the programs we got this year. And it's pretty incredible. I was behind the scenes this year for the first time and how this program selection happens, and there's a ginormous football pool and a huge U-shaped table, and everybody's on computers from all the 24 different chapters throughout the country vying for the best programs for their kids. And so I just want to thank the crew that spent their weekend down in Cincinnati to select these programs for us. Rita, Julie, Angelique, am I forgetting anyone? Thank you guys so much. Let's just hear it for them. So, without further ado, we got 2 villages this year, which is extremely exciting and wonderful. The first village program I'll announce is into, am I doing this right? Lunenburg, Germany. So an 11-year-old delegation starting on July 6th will be off to Germany. And while another delegation starting on June 30th will be off to Belo Horizonte, Brazil. So those are our village trips to Brazil and Germany this year. We have 2 step-up programs, and this year was very exciting because we hosted a step-up. We got first choice at step-up, so that caused us a lot of angst on really making making sure we picked the best programs, but it also meant we got a second one too. So thank you to the incredible people that planned that step up. Being even a small part of that experience this summer was life-changing for me. So thank you guys, Angelique, Mindy, Melissa, everybody. So the younger delegation, 2 boys, 2 girls, will go to step up in Lisbon, Portugal, July 6th through the 28th. And the second delegation, also 2 boys, 2 girls, will go to Trøndelag, Norway. So those guys, I mean, both of those trips will be, that's for 15-year-olds. So the first trip to Portugal will be 14-year-olds. The second step up to Norway will be 15-year-olds. We have a junior counselor, male position, for Belgique. I was trying to pronounce that with Google Translate. Belgique, Belgium. And that will be from July 6th through August 2nd. And so we have a male junior counselor, ages 16 to 18. We have, reminiscent of our first trip, a youth meeting to Graz, which will be from December 27th to January 3rd, and that would be 1 16 to 18-year-old male or female. Also to Austria, but Linz, we will have an interchange for the first time in a long time, and Justin, who's been here graciously videoing and taking pictures, has been organizing that tremendous effort, and that is up to six students who can
up to 10.
Up to 10 that can do. Interchange is a new program for me, so I'm always getting the numbers wrong, but so up to 10 children, ages 12
and 13.
12 and 13 can engage in, and that really is a family endeavor because the kids are coming here and then they're going there, so that will be amazing for many of us. There's going to be a youth meeting opportunity in Algiers, Algeria, which is a winter meeting for 1 19 or older delegate, male or female. And then every year in Pittsburgh, there's something called Fortnight, where 1 16 or 18-year-old from our chapter can apply to go, male or female, from June 2nd to August 31st. Oh, that's the birthday, sorry. The trip itself is, Rita, do you remember how many days?
2 weeks.
The fortnight?
It's 2 weeks.
It's a 2-week, July 15th. It's a 2-week program. And that's kids from around the country coming to Pittsburgh to talk about how we can improve on the stereotypes and really change the way we think about how, I always say Americans, and I was told by Ben, there are many Americans, not just people from the US when he got back from Village. So people from the US are viewed nationwide. And we have a seminar camp, which is for 17 to 18-year-olds, male or female, and the seminar camp will be...
They apply. So if they're interested.
They apply to national. This is new. This is the first time we're doing it this way. That's why I'm looking to read it to make sure.
There's a whole list of them.
And the application is due by December 15th. So we'll have that up on the website. But I didn't want to get that wrong because that is the first time we're doing seminar camp selection that way. So those are the incredible programs that our fabulous team selected when they were out in Cincinnati just a few weeks ago. And I just want to say that I was impressed that they calculated how much it took to go to a program for every day, $150, or a minute, $650, and so, or $650 an hour. So I feel like I have committed to at least supporting a day, and I was looking at the list, and I think right now, based on the people who've already committed, we have supported at least 15 days of a program. And so I just want to challenge everybody sitting there here to support a fraction of a day or an entire day to get us to a full village, which would be 30 days by the end of the evening. Thank you.
Anna is, I don't know, we giving a title? You're on the fundraising committee, and you kind of had the vision, you and Rob jointly kind of had the vision for this night, and you made the contacts with Club LeConte, who gave us this room for free tonight, and we're very generous for that. They're very kind to work with us with regards to pricing for food and alcohol and all of that, so we're very grateful. Anna, come and talk to us.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I got this started, and I was very fortunate to have very strong help at the very end of this, because the last month I've been gone for at least 2 weeks. So I'd like Rita to come over here because she did an enormous amount of work trying to get in touch with villagers from the 60s on to today, and putting together the program that you guys have in your hands. She does a lot more work than that, but this last month was incredibly stressful, I'd say. So I appreciate it. And of course, I need to have Beth Ann come over here because she also put so much work into this. There she is. She's done, the last month she's been on nonstop, so I so appreciate that you're picking up the slack. And to all of those that, helped, and as, CISVers on the board, and people that contributed, people that donated, people that gave silent auction items, people that helped us contact other villagers and parents of villagers and the families. I appreciate all the support that you've given. This has been a great night, so thank you so much.
As we're closing, in your program booklet, just a few companies I want to call attention to. Heart Graphics here on the back, they have been amazing. From the summer on through now, they have done all of our printing for us without charge. They did everything for Step Up, all the communication for the gala. They have been just fabulous. If you have a business that needs some graphic work done, I would encourage you to talk to them. They've been amazing. And then if you look inside, the front back paper, International Paper gave us a grant this summer that, for $5,000 to help fund our Step Up. We were very excited about that. And then the page here, just inside the back cover there with all the colorful things, these are all folks who donated things towards our silent auction and supported the gala here in some way. And then as you flip through, you'll find individual sponsorships from businesses and families that are in the booklet. So big thank you to all those folks who helped underwrite the cost of the gala and make tonight successful that way. As we're closing, right? As we're closing.
The CISV song?
I was counting on my 17-year-old son to be here because he would know all the words, right? If y'all can help me, I can stumble through some of it. But do y'all know the words? Our local leaders, right? We will get there in just a second. All right, we will officially close with the song. Thank you very much. Thank you again for your continued support, financial, the work over the years, the advice we've gotten, and when we can call you up and say, how do we handle this or how do we handle that? What can you do for us now? How can you support us now, right? One, you can help us recruit. We are in the middle of recruiting season. We are looking for 11-year-olds and those families, and personal relationships are the best ways that we can reach out, because they have to trust us. And it's hard to trust an organization you don't know, and the way people know the organization is through people who have been in the organization, right? Helen Bryant brought Rita and I in, and we've always been grateful. That's one. Two, you could, if you've got the kind of business available to you, you could become a sponsor for our village coming up, or for next year's gala, or maybe put us in touch with people who might be able to sponsor us in those ways. We would gravitate and appreciate that help as well. If you want to come back and volunteer with us, we would be glad to have you back. We would find nice, smaller ways you could volunteer if you wanted to come back. But that is in the possibility. We could find a job for you that wouldn't necessarily be on the board, although if you want to be on the board, we'd be thrilled. But we could do that. You could still volunteer with us. And then obviously we covet and appreciate very much your financial support. And many of you have been faithful over the years to support us, and we are very aware of that and very grateful. So thank you. The sheets are up. Where did Beth Ann put the sheets? The village sheets maybe back there, and at the table here with Rita. Yeah. So up here at Rita's table, and the one over there. We're closing it off in the name of peace, right? We're going to stand up and sing this village song.
Different race and different lands, here we come to understand one another's point of view, learning through the things we do. How alike am I to you? Here we live and eat and sleep, talk and laugh and sometimes weep. Here we share our hopes and fears, build a bridge across the years, sow a seed and plant a tree. Beneath the branches there may be all the nations gathered free, that our children so may grow in a world we did not know, sharing all they have to give, learning how to love and live. In our hands the future lies, seize the moment there it flies, stamp the present with an act, dare to make our dreams a